Hi, everybody. It's Ryan from Pi Records, and I'm here with Jung from Sino Hearts. The Sino Hearts
Hey, what's up, everybody?
in China, right?
In Beijing, China. Yeah. Yes, in Beijing, the capital city. Yeah.
So I'm very excited to talk to you, and I'll tell you why. Noah from Otitis Media spoke very highly of you, and so I went and I listened to your two records,
Yep.
and I was blown away. The chord progressions,
Thank you very much.
yeah, the chord progressions and the melody, um it's something that's right up my alley. So do you want to talk about uh maybe the writing process and what your influences are?
Yeah, sure. Yes. Uh, First of all, I really appreciate like you enjoy our records, both of them. So yeah, I mean we're based on like 70s punk rock, but usually I also am huge fan of 60s UK garage and beat bands. So it's like from very early on, it's like I'm a big fan of like early the Rolling Stones or the British Invasion era, all of those bands. But anyhow, it's because I used to live in Austria, so I play with a lot of Austrian bands previously, and some of them are like 77 punk bands, and also some of them are like romance bands. So I got like both influenced by all kinds of punk rock. So and then like when I was like early 20s, I was like huge Casualties Discharge fan. So
I like that.
I was like UK 82. Yeah, like wannabe. So I used to have like three Mohawks and my old bands. We were kinds of like Austrian version of Anti-C-Max Discharge, is like this sort of bands. And then like I was on tour with D Craigs, like one of the finest Austrian punk bands, and they're doing like Ramones core bands. And then like during the whole tour, I got totally brainwashed by like power pop Ramones. And after the tour, I formed the Sino Hearts back in Austria with Austrian musicians. And then like since I moved back, I like reformed this project is because I did all the songwriting, also the arrangement. So yeah.
Very cool. So I'm gathering you play guitar.
Yes.
Do you record all the instruments yourself, or did you get a full band?
Yeah, I mean, normally, except drum, I record every instrument, and in the last two records. So it's because I have a very unique, uh, stylish playing method. It's kind of like, yeah, I mean, it's kind of like I import the the European or American standard of playing to China is because I have trained my Chinese bandmates like to play correctly into the real rock and roll sound, which is not really easy, but that's the reason why it's like I record everything as much as possible on my own. So it's because I know the sound, I know the equipment, I know where to go, so it's easier and it saves a lot of time and money, so it's okay. So
Cool. It's
yeah,
interesting to hear you say that you play all the instruments except the drums, because
yes,
besides the guitar,
yeah,
drums really stood out to me because they don't seem the conventional way to play drums. The beats were a little different, which I really enjoyed.
yes.
Was that intentional?
Thank you very much. Yeah. Thank you very much. I think it's because I think the background. knowledge like among the Chinese drummers are very different than the Western drummers because like they don't really have like the acknowledge of like traditional rock and roll. So I really have to like train them, like I give them examples of the Ramones or Small Faces, all kinds of tutorial I have to show them. I don't like somehow we get into one correct way to record it. So but I mean for several records it's okay. So yeah.
But
And
it
they've been
translates
doing well. Yeah.
it translates very well. The beats
Yes.
the beats are very unique, and I think that's one thing that stands out about your band.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Yes. I'm really happy. It's like we made it out of Europe, uh, out of the Western country. I even made it in China. I mean, it's like it's like as it's because I went to Europe very early. It's like before my high school, so it's kind of like I've been there during my most important years. I don't like I came back and then actually everything's new for me, so I kind of like living in between. So
Okay.
that's a yes, that's a reason why it's like it's I still like on my way to yeah, I mean to balance the two system and
Yep.
two culture or something. Yeah, yeah,
So
I'm very happy. Yeah.
I'm very interested in knowing about the music scene in Beijing.
Yes.
Only because I you're the first band I've ever heard from China.
Yeah, from China. Yeah, thank you very much.
So tell
Yeah.
me what it's like playing in China, and what kind of shows you have.
I mean, it's like generally speaking, I've been on tour all over Europe, and I mean, I think China is kind of like they're sharing the same similarity as the East Yugoslavian countries, like Eastern Europe, is because like they all kinds of get out of the old Soviet system, and but still not really 100% embraced the world standard. Like they're still like in between. And China is kind of like they have like almost the the Japanese level of high technology. Like we pay everything through our phone and everything to be are digitalized, but in their minds, I mean, like mind wise, they are still very kind of conservative old Soviet structured, frame of mind. So it's very separate. But the funny thing is, I mean, the rock and roll scene here has been very kind of fresh. It's because all the punk rock shows, the main audience are like young college students, which is really kind of like rare in Europe or in the States. I back is because like I play all over Europe. I mean, the most of the audience either like up to like 30 years old or even elder, but here is kind of like early 20s or even 15 or underaged people. I think it's very like fresh, and but there's no culture like behind it, so it's like everything's for them are new, and we have to show them like what is what. That's kind of like something else. It's because like when I was on tour in Europe or in Japan, like we are from the same scene, and you're on a stage and you share the information with your audience. It's because you're in the same scene, you listen to the same music. but in China it's kind of like very divided. It's because like, for example, like my Chinese fans, usually they also listen to me. They also listen to like like Chinese Mandarin pop bands or Chinese like pop groups or K-pop, which to me it doesn't make any sense, but to them it's like it's all kind of same. You know, that's that make me a little bit upset sometimes, but I don't know. I mean, like it's just kind of like it's experience, and then like what I could do is just show them what the power pop is, what the 70s punk rock is, what the garage is, and that's all. So it's very interesting indeed. Yeah.
It sounds like something very special that you're doing. It's almost like you're creating a movement. Would you say that your goal is to bring rock and roll and punk rock to Beijing? And
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah, but you know, I mean, I'm not a communist. I'm not a socialist. You know, I don't give a fuck. It's because I just do like whatever I want, and in whatever I have to be. You know, now it's COVID time, so I couldn't be on tour abroad. So that's the reason why it's like I'm planning to do a China tour like in 2 months, and we will be on tour like all over China again, and I'll be recording it or documenting it
oh,
for everybody else in the world. So yeah, I think it's gonna be very funny. Yeah,
that's very cool. You thinking about putting out a
yeah,
live record or something?
yeah. Uh, yes. Also, like documentation or something. I think it's
Yeah.
gonna be
Okay.
funny. So
Okay.
yeah,
Um,
yes.
so what I really like to hear about is something like your gear or the kind of instruments you use.
Ah,
Uh,
okay, yeah,
how do you get that great sound?
yeah. Well, I'm a big fan of P90s. So like the guitars I've got always like P90s, dog ears, like single coil stuffs, and I'm also like big fan of the vintage Vox AC30. So I'm kind of like I stick to the classic British rock sound, and I bought all my instruments back in Austria, and like every possibility of the secondhand the store or private collector. So I got like, yeah, I mean, for the last records, Mandarin and Go-Go. So my main instrument or my main guitar was like Gibson SG Junior. So it's very easy, and it sounds, I mean, just for playing punk rock or garage punk bands, I think it's just perfect. But I also using like Rickenbacker, like yeah, for some really British power pop sound, and I also have like uh Epiphone Crestwood Deluxe is kind of like mini 70s humbucker, and it's also creating the brighter sound, like pretty vintage bright, and it was really good. So my main guitar is kind of like SG Junior, Gibson Les Paul Junior, and Crestwood Deluxe, and Rickenbacker. So there's four.
So the Rickenbacker, I would go straight to the Jam. Are you a big Jam fan?
Yes, yeah. I mean, I'm a really big fan of Paul Weller. I mean, his solo project, I think I still like wait it up little bit, but the jam and style console are one of my favorite bands. And I mean, especially the first couple albums of the jams, they really made how I am today. So yeah, I mean, it's really awesome. And I went to Paul Weller's show in Austria a couple times, and it was fantastic. But like as all the old musicians, they just want to be posh right now,
Yeah.
during his late time. So yeah, but it's still cool. I mean, it's still awesome. Yeah.
So being in Austria, you're kind of right in the
Yeah.
middle of Europe. And
Yes, of course.
so I'd love to know what
Yep.
that's like being in the center when everybody is passing through. Uh, like
Yes.
the music that comes through. What's that like experiencing that?
I mean, Austria is kind of like a small country in mid Europe, like mid west, like or mid in between. And like the most American bands, when they're on tour in Europe, they will be on tour at least like two or three shows in Austria, and one of them are in Vienna, where I used to be. And I mean, Austria is kind of like, like their official language is German, but they're very different than the Germans. So like they're kind of like Americanized German. So like Austrians kind of like easy, like it's okay. Yeah, it's not stressful all the time. So it's kind of like very chill normally, and that's the reason why it's like it 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 creates another kind of atmosphere is like in between. So it's like all the American band they came on tour and play in Austria and play with Austrian bands as support act. Was very kind of like, yeah, I mean it's very kind of like, yeah, cohesive. Yeah, I think it's very nice. So it's like it, yeah, just like you're living in the center of Europe or something. Yeah, it's very kind of like very different than, for example, I play in Japan as well. I mean, Japan's kind of like the center of Asia, but compared to Europe, still very far away from the world center, not generally speaking. So I mean, Austria is kind of like the good place to enjoy the whole rock and roll movement. Yes, like somehow you get everything in a first hand or in a second hand. So
Yep.
it was really cool. Yeah.
Awesome. So that leads me to my next question.
Yeah.
Why did you move to Austria at a at that time in your life, and how
Yep.
were you exposed to playing in bands, and where did you get that idea?
Yeah. It's because yeah, generally speaking, I'm from kind of like mid upper class of like Chinese family. So my father, his work is kind of like confidential. It's because he designed nuclear power station in China. So he's kind of like one of the high tech scientists. So, but I don't give a fuck. I'm a punk rocker. So it's like, when I was, but when I was teenager, I went to Hong Kong. So it's like when I was like after my junior school, I went to Hong Kong like holidays, and it was like like late 90s, and in Beijing was still like industrial, and every like in like industrial zone like everywhere is kind of like nowhere or no man's land. And then like suddenly I was in Hong Kong. I was like standing in the middle of Kowloon and the skyscraper everywhere. I saw like, oh my god, this is the real world. I mean, it's like, I mean, at it's because at that time, in the 90s, I think China is still not really really in a in a game of world standards. So it's still kind of like typical developing country, I don't like from that point. I thought like, okay, it's like the all education, everything just kind of lie, like they just treat us or they try to build us like everybody like the same and working for like for this whole nation, blah blah blah. It's kind of like bollocks to me. So like that's the reason why uh I thought about maybe there is a chance I could be out of China. So it's like after my middle school, and then like I've got an opportunity to study in Austria. So and then at that time I was not really familiar with Austria. I think you guys too. I mean, Austria is not a famous country in in the States, right? I mean, like everybody knows Australia, but nobody knows what Austria is. I mean, normally. And then it's like and then it's like I went to Vienna and then I learned a German and then like I just try to like get what I want through a normal Western country, and which was unfortunately Austria. I mean, Austria is absolute Western country, but it's like in between. Austria is kind of like a cultural mixture between Eastern Europe and Western Europe, but it's very European center, so which is very, very, very unique. So it's not really comparable to like American or British. Is because like I, I mean, just look at the whole English culture. They're very like open-minded, very open at least. But I mean, the German words is especially Austrians, very kind of like conservative clothes. They're kind of like high nose, and then that's the reason why it's like I got like in between. So I know the word standard, but I also know the center stuff. And since I came back to China, I also know like the point of being in Asia. So it's kind of like in between. So yeah, that's the reason why it's like I don't know. I mean, it's very hard to describe, but I can be like in this three culture, like Chinese culture and the German culture and the English culture very very freely after like 10 years being abroad, like being on tour here and there. So yes, yeah, that's yes what I'm becoming now. So yeah, it's
It sounds like
complicated,
a
but
very
it's okay.
interesting life.
Yes, I mean, but it's COVID time. Like we all just sit home and look back, confront ourselves, and yeah, I mean, but it's also a good time to like calm down and think back like what we are or what we or who we wanted to be or something. Concentrate on things we used to always think about. I think it's also the only option we've got right here, right now. I mean,
Yeah.
during this time, yeah.
So I want to go back to Hong Kong. I'm very curious about
Yes,
Hong Kong and the music scene because it's a huge city, and I think our listeners
yes, yes,
might not know as much about Hong Kong as they should. It's a pretty important place.
yes. I mean, Hong Kong, like politically, Hong Kong is kind of like the front line of Chinese like port city is because Hong Kong until now still like remaining the capitalism way of life somehow. I mean, since 2 years ago, the movement, but still, it's divided from China. So I've been playing in Hong Kong in the last maybe 10 years. Like, I mean, every 2 years I play there normally. I mean, Hong Kong is kind of very interesting city, and the rocks is very small, just like Shanghai. It's I think it happens to all the economic centered cities is because everybody's kind of like the businessman. They're just making some a good fortune. But especially for punk rock, it's very hard for like Hong Kong. I remember it's like there was one time I played there in Hong Kong. Like there was one English guy just came to me. Hey, John, thank you very much to bring so many the great punk rock bands to our city. I was like, what the fuck? Yeah, I'm just a normal guy. I just bring some fucking bands out of Europe to play here, and then I just got none. Yeah, I mean, it's like why you just sent me? I mean, just and but Hong Kong is kind of like it's. I mean, it's getting better and better, like in the last few years. But I think still a long way to go, like to be like a normal rock and roll cities, because Hong Kong, I don't know if you know, it's like the very high, yeah, it's expensive city. I think it's like just the second. I think besides Tokyo, it's maybe it's a second expensive city. Like everybody's has to be working like ants or something to get a real decent life. That's the reason why I think it's really like happening to the music movements. But I think nowadays it happens to anywhere. I mean, it's like, I mean, generally speaking, I mean, yeah, just like you can imagine, is like a rock scene there is probably like a small town in Texas, but the city is like metropolis. so
Yeah.
so it's just kind of like this, very strange. Yeah, but generally speaking, Tokyo is my favorite rock and roll city in Asia. Like they got everything, very crazy, and not huge, but very centered, very unique. Yeah, I love Tokyo rock scene. It's unbelievable. Yeah,
There was a there was a band there in the '90s that I absolutely loved called High Standard.
yeah, yeah. I mean, High Standard is kind of like Japanese version of NoFX or something. Yeah, they'll be on tour together. Yeah.
So, wait, do you go to a lot of shows and play a lot of shows in Japan?
Yeah, we did a Japan tour like 2 years ago, and last year we were planning to be back, but it's COVID-19 time, so everything's canceled.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then like our Japanese release has been delayed to this year. I hope some like somehow they can like get our records on CD versions out there soon. Yeah, it's because like in Japan there is still like a huge demand of CD. So
Oh,
that's very different than Europe or States, I think. Like they are still consuming the CDs. Like in China too. So like the most of the young kids they're still purchasing CDs. So I think it's okay.
I see
Yeah.
a lot of records behind you. Is that what you prefer?
Yeah. Yes, I'm a vinyl fan, so I've got a lot of records. So yeah.
Cool. Um, I got to listen to you through a digital means,
Yes.
but I'm hoping to stock some of your records in our store. Um,
Yeah.
I have to admit I didn't know what to expect when I put your record on, and I can't
Yeah.
stress enough how much the
Yeah.
songwriting impressed me. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
I mean, the songwriting is like well, my main influence are like the late 70s punk rock and late 70s mod, like the mod revival bands. But I'm also a big fan of like the fast romance and stuff. So like, yeah, I'm big fan of the 80s romance records. So I want to have the good combination in between. And then like also I'm big fan of like 2000 like Exploding Hearts records, kind of like chill and hi-fi, like the garage sound. So I just want like combine everything into one package. So especially our second album's kind of like in this way. So I pack everything like all together. So there were like faster songs, also like 60s garage pop songs, also like 70s power pop, like all together, but all kind of like cult cult sound. So it's not really modern sound. I just love like, I don't, it's because I'm not a really big fan of modern music after like 90 or after 82 or something. I just listen to like 60s and 70s records, so mostly. So yeah.
So, if people want to get a hold of you and your records, where can they find
Yeah.
you on the internet?
Well, there are lots of like reviews of our records, but also it's like if you want listen to our records, they're like on Bandcamp, Spotify, all kinds of platforms. So
Oh, very
you can
cool.
find them. So yeah.
Um, have you been to the states at all, or South America or Canada?
Still not. I think it's my last goal. It's because like this COVID shit, has been delayed my whole like work plan. Like it's because like I've been playing like all over the places, and the states is kind of my last stop. I hope it's like after the COVID era, we could be on tour like in the states, plus in in Canada, is because I think it's gonna be very cool, and we're very appreciate that our records also gets out in the states for the first time, and I think it's gonna be a fresh start. Yeah, I hope our third album will be in the states too. I mean, it's like which I'm working on right now. So we're
Oh,
working on
great.
like the third record. So like we already record like 4 songs, and next Monday we will be recording another 4 songs. And between like the summer, we will be probably finished our third album. It's gonna be like also like kind of like the second album, but it's taking deeper. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, I'm very happy that I didn't waste much time
Very good.
during the
Yeah,
COVID time. So yeah.
that's great.
Yep.
So, John, I want to thank you so much for your time
You're welcome.
and for talking to me
Yeah.
because I was very excited to talk to you. I love your music, and when I really love a band, I love to get to know the person. And you've led a very
Really
interesting life.
appreciate it.
You've led a very interesting life, and I hope you come to Philadelphia in the States because I'd love to see you.
Yeah, I hope to. I mean, it's because like with my former hardcore punk bands, we play with the Virus in Austria. I think they're from Philadelphia, right? The
I think so.
Virus. Yeah. That the Specky Hair, the
Yeah.
street punk band, and we played together in Graz in Austria. So it was great fun. So yeah, I mean, after the COVID, I think we will be able to play in the States. And I would like to see you, see Noah, see our American friends. Yes, all over the States. Yeah, I'm very looking forward to seeing you guys and everybody else. So we're very happy.
Well, I'm very glad I was introduced to your music, and I can't wait to hear the new stuff. I'm sure it's going to be next level because every album that you do just keeps getting better and better.
Yes. I hope so. Yeah. I I just hope so. Yeah. I just keep on doing my best each album. So yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, John. You have a good day.
Yeah. Same to you, man.